Out of the original chaos, along the eternal path of time, man has marked his way with stones. In answer to his prayers, the earth gave him a gift beyond his wildest dreams. A crystal so huge, he couldn't but admire it. It was a giant crystal, and its land, Brazil. Steiner is a German gem cutter. He's known to some of his contemporaries as the Picasso of precious stones. In the world of gem cutters, Moonsteiner is an original whose innovative cutting style is akin to sculpture. The giant crystals enable him to fully express his art. He sculpts them while totally respecting the vagaries of nature.
The hard part is to make a combination between the nature crystallization and the design what you like to do. This is very hard because the crystallization in nature is such strong that you really, most of the time, you don't like to touch it. But that's not enough. You need to make a work with it. And you need to know a lot about crystals, of course, because if you only cut inside like this, and you don't know the angle to cut it, then it will not have a reflection. That means you don't see it.
This stone comes from Minas Gerais, Brazil, and I found this piece in Governador Valadares.
Brazil is a true melting pot nation, where different races and cultures have intermixed since the 17th century. The southeast region represents a little more than 10% of the territory and houses almost half of the Brazilian population. Economically rich thanks to its large cities such as Sao Paulo, Rio, and Belo Horizonte, the southeast has a great wealth of natural resources. It's one of the world's leading producers of gemstones and crystals. In Rio de Janeiro, Jules Sauer has built up a financial empire through the buying and selling of mines and crystals. He started out very young, and his passion for crystals is as strong today as ever.
You
know, it has an amazing power of concentration because it has never accepted the outside temperature. It's a living crystal. Its temperature is around 12 degrees, whereas ours is 36 degrees. If you place your head on the crystal, it gives your mind the power of concentration. I'm not joking. There are dozens of books to prove it. No, you should save the crystal, because my friend's coming. His name's Patrick. The crystal's transparent, no? The torchlight passes through it, so it's translucent then.
About 100 kilometers from Belo Horizonte, in the Ouro Preto region, is an Imperial Topaz mine. This gemstone is extremely rare, and its color varies from yellow to pink.
This mine in the Ouro Preto region is called Capão. It's a mine that has been worked since Imperial times. Emperors came here because it was a byway for the emperors who left Rio de Janeiro to come to Ouro Preto. In our mine, the production isn't big. We reach a total production of 35 to 40 kilos of topaz a month. And out of these 35 to 40 kilos, we'll have 600 grams that can be cut, which makes around 3,000 carats for cutting.
A exploração do topaz imperial é feita de forma a atender alguns parâmetros.
Imperial topaz mining has to comply with certain parameters of security and profitability.
Nós tiramos o topázio diretamente do solo, numa argila.
With the help of a machine, we pick the topaz directly out of the clay soil in which it's contained.
Do drag scraper. Esta máquina
This extracting machine deposits the soil in a sieve, which, after washing, retains the topaz-bearing gravel.
Conduz a peneiras onde há uma repolpagem desse material, transformando em lama, até que seja selecionado uma quantidade.
This part represents around 1% of the original quantity, and that's where the topaz is found.
No meio dos quais está o topázio. Esses sólidos não desagregáveis vão para uma esteira.
This gravel is placed on a sorting belt where the topaz is sorted and then placed in deposit boxes in order to be transported to the central office.
Sistema de cofres para que seja conduzido ao escritório central. Toda a operação é monitorada.
The entire operation is carried out under camera surveillance in order to ensure maximum security.
This mechanized mine is owned by two partners. In all the mines, the theft of stones is something to be feared, as the rare stones of excellent quality represent the major part of the mine's profits. Here, the surveillance methods are extremely sophisticated in order to guard against theft. Every movement is filmed and recorded. The regulations are very strict and are respected. At the Capão mine, giant topaz crystals are sometimes found, like the one that was 30 centimeters long and as wide as a beer can, nicknamed the Monster. The most famous topaz found in the Ouro Preto region is called the Braganza. It weighs 1,680 carats and is set in the Portuguese royal crown. It was long believed to be a diamond. The topaz is often used in jewelry making. It's a hard stone, 8 on the Mohs hardness scale, where the diamond is a 10. It's composed of aluminium, fluorine, silica, and oxygen. It's often imitated by other gemstones that are similar to it, but lacking its natural luster, like the citrine, for example. The topaz is sometimes heat-treated at 450 degrees centigrade to enhance its color, but the use of this process has to be indicated at the time of the sale, and considerably reduces the stone's value.
A mina do Capão, ela é uma mina
The Capão mine is a mine that is favored by the color of the topazes that are found here.
Amarelo pálido.
We have here a range of colors that go from pale yellow to deep lilac, almost red. The range of colors is extremely varied.
The topaz is formed in the depths of the earth at a temperature of approximately 300 degrees centigrade, under pressures of around 2,500 bars. From the geological surveys, it is believed that the Capão mine has reserves of gemstones for 50 more years of mining. In Ouro Preto, which has become a museum town of Brazilian Baroque art, there now remains but the memory of gold. Certain parts of the town seem to be frozen in another epoch. In the latter half of the 18th century, the town was a flourishing center of intellectual and artistic activity. And it's here that in 1789 the independence movement broke out, headed by Tiradentes and known as the Inconfidência Mineira. This rebellion arose in reaction to the crippling taxes leveled by the Portuguese crown on the miners. It's on the main square that bears his name today that Tiradentes, the symbol of Brazilian independence, was hanged and quartered in 1792.
It's not good. We can find better ones at Governador.
Do you think so? At Governador? Bigger ones?
Much bigger and of better quality.
What's their weight?
300 kilos.
There are more there, no?
Much more.
On the Brazilian giant crystal and gemstones route, the wares of the Ouro Preto stone dealers are of relatively little interest. It's at Teofilo Otoni that a large part of the region's best stones are brought to be sold. This town is the major trade center for gemstones from the Minas Gerais region. The Garimpeiros come here to sell their rough or cut stones on the main square. The biggest, world-renowned Brazilian dealers have their main office in this town. This is the case of Hassan Alawar, who, with his father, buys and sells the region's finest gemstones.
The problem today is that giant crystals are rare. You don't come across one often. You can find many beautiful crystals, but smaller ones. We can try our luck with one of the mining operations in the Araçuai region. I'm going to call someone to see if they know where you can see one of these crystals.
Alô, Zé?
Hello, Jose.
Tá bom, meu filho? E você?
How are you, son?
Deixa eu te perguntar, Zé. Eu tenho uma turma de amigos que tá aqui.
Let me ask you something.
Procurando.
I have some friends here who are looking for quartz pyramid crystals.
Está produzindo um quartzo grande, aquelas pirâmides grandes. Então tá. Eu vou tentar ligar para Almir.
Okay, I'll try and get hold of Almico.
Tá bom.
Thanks.
Obrigado. Bom, o problema é que não é fácil achar um.
It's difficult to find someone who has some, but if you like, I'll make another phone call and see what I can find for you. But it's not easy.
Vamos tentar. Então tá bom.
Great.
Tá, joia.
Okay, João, thanks.
Tem cara lá em Araçuai.
There's a man over in Araçuai who's on a line that can produce at any moment now. So if you want to go over there and take a look, there's no problem.
Não tem problema, ele fica te esperando em Araçuai.
He'll meet you in Araçuai, which is about 280 kilometers from here. Okay? Speaking of giant crystals, there are many other types of minerals produced in this region, not only quartz. I have something else here that I can show you. This is it. It's in aquamarine, exactly.
Ela tem 5 quilos e
It weighs 5.5 kilos.
5 quilos, 300.
5 kilos, 320 grams.
98. Foi fantástico.
It's fantastic. Fantastic.
E tem uma outra pedra.
I have another stone.
12 000 carats, on peut tailler dedans.
Essa por sinal é da
It comes from the region where you want to go, Araçuai.
Isso são coisas que produzem aqui.
This is the sort of thing they produce there.
Pedra, ela deve custar hoje em torno.
Today, this stone costs around $600 to $700 a carat, and it's about 200 carats.
Uns 200 quilates mais ou menos. E saiu aqui perto de Pato Paraíba.
It was extracted near Paradise Park, which is a region a little farther up north.
E aqui.
And these are the other cut stones from the same Paradise Park region, except that it's a deposit that has produced 3 different colors: blue, yellow, and bicolor.
Araçuai is a small town 230 kilometers from Teofilo Otoni. Independent local miners called Garimpeiros are in the process of extracting a giant quartz crystal weighing around 2 tons.
Parece que é bem transparente, viu? Boa terminação. Isso aqui vai ficar bonito depois que limpar.
In order for a giant quartz crystal to form, an atom of silicon circulating in the Earth's crust has to bind with 2 atoms of oxygen. The quartz germ is born. The molecules of silicon oxide, SiO2, link up in a repeated uniform pattern, producing a crystal. The crystal's large size is due to its steady growth in an undisturbed milieu over a long period of time, the geological time scale being 1 million years. The rate of cooling has to be slow. The provision of matter, silicon oxide, in the milieu has to be constant in order to enable the crystal faces to develop progressively over time. The subsoil of Minas Gerais is one of the Earth's richest in giant minerals and precious stones. Here, the stones are not only precious for their aesthetic value, they also play a strategic role. Thousands of miners are employed in the mining of quartz, which is highly sought after for its piezoelectric properties. Since the Second World War, 10,000 tons of quartz have been exported to the United States. 80 million cut plaques of this mineral have been used for military purposes. Despite its weight, the miners extract this giant with great care so as not to damage the faces and edges of its crystal. It's rare to find intact crystals. They are often naturally chipped, cracked, and discolored by brown iron oxides. The largest crystals are the most affected by the tectonic activity that has taken place during the 500 or so million years of their existence. This activity has left very visible traces in the quarries, such as faults. The experts estimate at 1 in 1,000 the number of giant crystals that possess a flawless shape, crystallinity, transparency, and characteristic color. The lure of profit has incited the mine owners to systematically break up these huge crystals for the piezoelectric industry, or more simply for making of ashtrays. All these factors are responsible for the rarity of giant crystals today. In 1959, one of Brazil's greatest mineral collectors, Dr. Dilef, lost his chance of acquiring a perfect monocrystal weighing 7 tons. The mine owner preferred breaking it up in order to find its transparent core, the only part to be of any value for industry. Unfortunately, the crystal was shattered for nothing. None of the pieces were usable for industrial purposes. Both the collector and the mine owner saw their hopes dashed.
Vira assim pra lá, pra melhor. Ela passa na SBT lá no Ela é piveta mesmo. Pode levar. Você é doido. Respeita não, bicho doido. É doido demais, viu? Eles nem sabem nada não, moça. Pode levar pra vocês. Olha os que... mas tem alguém que sabe. Quem sabe?
Essa terra tá bonita, não tá? The Garimpeiros are paid a percentage for their findings. The women are also obliged to participate in the mine work in order to improve their living conditions.
I work. I break up the rocks. I give it to the boss. I wait 15 days. Then I come and get my share of the money. He keeps half for himself and pays me the other half.
The monthly salary is very low and not fixed, but the miners are grateful to find this work in this region that suffers alternatively from drought and flooding. They are always hopeful of finding an exceptional stone that will enable them to have a better life.
I start work at 7. I arrive at 7 and I leave at 2. I come home, give the children their bath, do some housework, make the lunch, and then we go back there again the next day. Over there we extract precious stones, crystals. One day, I hope to find a big crystal of great value, to have a better life for myself, for my children, so they won't have to have a life like mine and their fathers, who has to work so hard. The story of Chico Rey. He was a black slave who worked hard, found a lot of gold, and he became rich. He had a lot of money, and he was able to buy his own freedom and that of many other slaves. And today he's considered as a prince here. Everyone sings his praises.
Here, we're in the Chico Rey mine. Chico Rey was an African prince who was brought from Africa to Brazil as a slave to work in this mine, which was worked solely with hammer and chisel. Tons of gold were extracted here, gold and diamonds that were destined for Portugal. So after several years of laboring in the mines for 2 Portuguese men, Chico Rey finally managed to buy his freedom and that of 44 other slaves. He finally became owner of the mine. In the sides of these walls, there are holes called bujos, and when the slaves were working here, they hid some of the gold and gold dust they found in these holes in order to donate it to the Church of Saint Ephigenia, which is the black people's church. They'd cover themselves with whale grease, which enabled them to take all this gold dust out, and they'd come out dancing the congado, which was a black people's dance, so that the Portuguese wouldn't notice anything. When they arrived at the church, they washed themselves, and all this gold dust fell off their bodies. And it's with this gold that they managed to build this church.
The Garimpeiros live in huts near the mine site or in the neighboring villages. The living conditions here are very harsh. There's no running water, no electricity, and no doctor available to treat them if they have a health problem or an accident, which is often the case with the dynamite they use. It's homemade and accidents are frequent. The back passages of the mine are not propped up, and the operation is risky. This kind of explosive is necessary, however, in order to reach the rock layers that house the giant crystals. The giant crystals are formed in a pegmatite rock. This is a silicate rock that is rich in silica combined with diverse metallic oxides. The minerals form there in huge crystals. 1% of pegmatite rocks contain small caves, whose walls are covered with crystals. For these crystals to develop, their base constituents need to be present and stable over a long period of time. All these conditions are very uncertain, rendering giant crystals extremely rare. In Brazil, erosion has caused the disappearance of thick layers of originally very hard rock. The surface layers have therefore become concentrated in more resistant minerals, such as quartz, that is particularly sought after by the miners.
The production's good. There's a seam here that should have some very clear ones. And back there, there's another seam that we can work. We just need to dig and extract. It'll take some time. There's a lot of crystal. Yes, lots of crystals. Beautiful ones, too. It's rare.
The one that's covered should have some good ones.
They should have some both above and below. There are accidents sometimes, but that's normal. You just have to be careful, that's all. We can start extracting now. We need to blast it to open up the seam. Okay, Manuel, we're going to start.
The work here is very dangerous. Like me, for example. A month ago, I had an accident in the mine. Look what happened to me. The ladder broke and I fell to the bottom, landing on my ribs. I almost died. They transported me to Teofilo Otoni, and thanks to God, I was saved. I'm happy. And, my friends, it's very dangerous here because of the snakes. There are a lot of very dangerous snakes. We even kill snakes inside the houses. I once killed 5 corals. But thanks to God, life's sweet here, and we get by all right.
In these mines, acetylene lamps are used for lighting. It's an age-old process. The water drops onto calcium carbide, provoking a chemical reaction that gives off flammable acetylene gas. It's a good, inexpensive source of light that is ideally suited to this type of mining work. Extracting the crystal is no easy job. Great care has to be taken so as not to damage it and thus preserve its value. The miners have attempted to dislodge it with hammers and chisels, but in vain. The rock's too hard. So once again, they have no choice but to use dynamite to blast it. Zé Estrada, the owner of the site, goes into the mine to take a look at this latest discovery for himself. He discusses it with Antonio, his partner.
I'm going to extract the stones and I'll sell you 5 kilos.
Thanks. You sell me 5 kilos and I'll sell you 10 kilos when I've extracted them, okay? Do you have any clear ones?
No, I don't have any clear ones.
It needs to be really clear for cutting.
This is another kind. You can cut this.
I know, I'll take it, but I wanted clear ones.
Stop by at the office and I'll sell you some.
Okay.
When the crystal isn't too big, the Garimpeiros haul it out of the mine like a wild beast after a hunt. Watched by Zé Estrada, they load it onto a truck. Its journey begins. The first stop-off point will be Araçuai.
Mais devagar, vamos mais devagar.
Riba, Manel.
Esse lado de cá fica mais... Esse lado de cá é mais bonito do cristal, viu?
Vai ribar.
cristal desse lado aqui é mais bonito. Entrou, Manel? Aí ficou beleza, viu?
The most interesting thing about this quartz is it has twin crystals which are born within the stone, and it has also muscovite, which is a special kind of mica, which make it rarer than if it would be just a stone itself. Whenever I buy stones, I keep the best for myself. And these stones are not for sale. They can be given one day if we find any more. But unfortunately, the search for gemstone is more difficult than ever before because the cost of labor is rising. When I started in 1938, gemstones were extremely rare because nobody liked them or nobody cared. If we are curious enough and we have enough health, we know that Brazil still will remain the paradise of gemstones for the next hundreds of years, 300 or 400 years, because it's a one-time harvest. But I know personally that we did not find all the good gemstones. I hope that my grandsons will still search for gemstones.
Jules Sauer's whole life revolves around stones. In Rio de Janeiro, which houses the head office of his jewelry and gemstones company, he has created a museum of crystals, each one bigger and more beautiful than the next. His collection includes an enormous aquamarine crystal weighing 70 kilos, a blue topaz of the same weight, and numerous rock crystals of remarkable purity, all weighing over 100 kilos. Brazil is his territory, and in particular, Minas Geodes, a region with very high concentrations of gemstones. But the other regions of this immense country are not totally outdone. 1,600 kilometers from Rio is Porto Alegre, the capital of Rio Grande do Sul. A 500-kilometer drive northwest of here is the small town of Amethyst. The world's largest production of amethyst, over 350 tons per month, comes from this area. The amethyst is a purple-colored quartz that is frequently used in jewelry making. The famous rings of bishops are set with them. At the time when the great dinosaurs walked the Earth from 150 to 110 million years ago, enormous lava flows spread across this region. Large bubbles of gas were trapped during the rock formation. Hot, silicate-rich solutions circulated here. The amethyst started to crystallize, progressively absorbing the solution contained in the bubbles. This phenomenon gave birth to geodes that resemble huge eggs imprisoned in black basalt. Whenever the miners find one of these geodes, they drill a small hole in the rock face in order to insert a special lamp to observe the qualities of the crystals inside. Gilberto Bortoluzzi is one of Brazil's leading amethyst dealers. He exports throughout the world. He buys his geodes, still intact of course, directly from the mine.
That's fine. How much is it?
About 5 or 6 reals a kilo, in this color.
And when is it coming out?
It's too late today.
Can we come back tomorrow to negotiate?
Yes, you can come back to negotiate.
Have you extracted many stones, Mr. Roma?
A few, not really stones, just small pieces.
But the production's good. Are you satisfied with it?
There are good days and bad days. That's how it is with stones. You never know what you're going to get. You can have 5 or 6 excellent pieces all at once, and then a lot of pieces that aren't worth anything.
And this year, has a lot of the merchandise already been extracted?
Yes, there's always some. We always find some.
Have you had many buyers?
Oh, there are a lot here.
I'd like to buy.
You want to buy and pay? Whoever gives me the right price for it gets it.
Despite his down-and-out appearance, Roma, who smokes only cornleaf cigarettes, is one of the richest landowners in the region. He owns no less than 10 mines that produce a total of 8 to 10 tons of amethysts per month. He barely knows how to write, but he can certainly count, and has a reputation of being a very tough businessman. Here, we're a far cry from the poorly paid prospectors and Garimpeiros. Everyone has a share in the profits. 20% goes to the landowner, 40% to the mine operator who provides the necessary equipment, and the remaining 40% is shared out between the miners, who often form partnerships with members of their own family. The amethyst is believed to bring in $40 million a year to this region. Roma, between 2 sips of cachaça, likes to talk about the magical properties of the stone that has made him rich. Drinking wine out of an amethyst glass prevents drunkenness. This property has its origin in ancient times. How beautiful was the maiden Amethyst. Her beauty, so fragile and tender, which should have protected her, attracted the eyes of Bacchus. The god, who was drunk again, pursued the chaste maiden, who fled from him in terror. Not knowing what to do to escape her would-be seducer, Amethyst beseeched Diana's help. The goddess was moved by the maiden's plight, and when the drunken god finally managed to seize hold of the object of his desire, the lithe and delicate body of the maiden transformed itself into a hard, shiny stone. Sobering up and filled with shame and remorse, Bacchus decided to combine in the stone his 2 great passions, the purple of the wine that he loved more than anything, and the name of Amethyst, the lovely maiden. His heart filled with repentance. He went even further, wanting to preserve his worshippers from the dire consequences of drunkenness. He endowed the humble stone with the power to dispel the harmful fumes and effects of wine. The still intact geodes are transported to Gilberto's factory, where they are cut with enormous diamond saws. The faces of the geode are then polished. hundreds of geodes are stocked in his warehouses, ready to be exported all over the world.
My name is Gilberto Luis Bortoluzzi. I deal in precious stones such as amethysts, agates, aquamarines, citrines. Our strongest product is really the amethyst. We export around 15 tons per month. All this merchandise comes from the Amethyst mining region, which produces the largest quantities of this type of stone in the world. These stones come in many different shapes and sizes and can weigh from 3 to 4 kilos up to 2, 3, or even 4 tons. We've already sold pieces weighing over 2 tons, which are now in European museums or in the United States. The largest piece was a piece of 2 tons, which was sent to Italy. But other customers have found even bigger pieces. Not through me, but they do exist. Although it's difficult to find pieces of that size, they're extremely rare.
Gilberto's brother manages the store in Rio, where he centralizes stones that come from different regions of Brazil.
The amethysts come from the Rio Grande do Sul region, from the Irai region, which is northwest of the Rio Grande River near Argentina. Geodes come in various sizes. There are small geodes of this size that are totally closed. And there are geodes that can house a person, 2 meters, 2.5 meters tall, weighing 500, 600, 800, 1,000 kilos. But these big geodes are rare. Most of them are of average size. Amethyst geodes are believed to have formed during the Tertiary Age. So it took 1 million years for them to crystallize and develop, to finally become the marvels that they are today. These stones are for export. We've been exporting them all over the world for several years now.
Nós temos como grandes compradores os Estados Unidos.
Our biggest buyers are the United States and European countries such as Germany, France, Spain, and others. Our Brazilian stones are often used in esoteric practices. They are also used in alternative medicine cures. We've been developing this new market here in Brazil for the past few years. It's a trend that started some time ago.
Mercado aqui no Brasil, que é uma moda que já surgiu há muito tempo e que atualmente está sendo desenvolvido no Brasil.
It's presently becoming an important market in Brazil.
Essas pedras para fazerem trabalhos e também.
We have a lot of customers who buy these stones for esoteric practices.
Em gnomos, em doenças.
Some use them in health cures. Other pieces are used in magic rituals. Here, they're used a great deal in esoteric rituals and alternative medicine.
In Brazil, the use of stones in esotericism is extremely frequent. In the present case, the positioning of the gemstones on the chakras is borrowed from Oriental medicine and is supposed to heal the body and the spirit of the patient. The relationship between man and the natural elements has great importance. The Embody Ritual, inspired by religious African beliefs, consists in the channeling of natural forces. According to its practitioners, who are many in Brazil, the crystals serve to attract spiritual energy and are thought to possess a great knowledge of all things experienced in the past. This knowledge is transmitted to the human being during these rituals. The warehouses of Vasconcelos contain many different minerals, but this isn't its main specialty. For several generations, his family has collected and exported Brazil's most beautiful and largest giant crystals.
This stone is larger and better than this one because this one is more transparent. Something, you know, you can see inside 80%, and this is only 60%. I think go to China, you know, because they have big manufacturers there. That's a shame because this is a piece for museum, you know. I don't want to sell to any cutters, you know.
As a one cutter?
Yeah. I would like to sell for a museum or for, you know, some people who could keep, you know, how nature is. That's about 150 million years old. So if you sell for cutters, they will make beautiful jobs, but kill the naturalists. That's 4,280 kilos, this piece. That's the, you know, the largest and perfect we have found. This is a white quartz. We found this piece with 1,600 kilos, but after blaster, you know, that was all damaged. So we enjoyed to make a sphere. This sphere now is with 65 centimeters and close to 400 kilos, you know. Yes, we sold some piece for the museum, the French museum. My father sold, I don't remember for which museum, but for sure we have pieces over there.
The giant crystals saved from the manufacturing and craft industries will be sent abroad. They can be found all over the world, in private collections or in museums, where they are exhibited to the public like a work of art produced by nature. In March 1983, a giant crystals exhibition was held in the Museum of Natural History in Paris. It took 8 years of negotiations and preparations before the 80 finest pieces of the Deleuze collection arrived in Paris. Elia Deleuze selected them over 25 years out of thousands and thousands of examined pieces. Their success with the public was immediate. It's thanks to the tenacity of the gallery's director, Professor Henri-Jean Chougnel, that we can admire today the world's finest collection of giant crystals.
Giant crystals are found in the Brazilian Pegmatite rocks and in a certain number of pegmatites of other countries. They are mainly quartz, feldspars, beryls, and topaz crystals. The biggest crystal ever recorded in the history of humanity was a beryl weighing 300 tons, which was mined in Madagascar, an entire mine of beryl crystal. To form a crystal group of 3 tons, like this one, it takes several centuries.
Brazil has many more treasures to offer that still remain to be discovered. In Minas Gerais, the old Garimpeiros say that at the end of an endless road, at the point where the sun sets, is a mountain that conceals within its bosom the world's biggest and most beautiful crystal.